This is the United States Supreme Court. Recently, in a 6-3 decision, the court allowed the Department of Homeland Security to end temporary protected status for roughly 350,000 Haitians and roughly 6,000 Syrians.
But let's begin with the bombshell ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court this week, which gives the Trump administration the authority to end TPS, or temporary protected status, for immigrants living here who fled armed conflict in their home countries and are here legally, or at least they were.
The Trump administration could end temporary protected status, or TPS, for Syrian and Haitian immigrants.
Shockwaves are being felt in immigrant communities after the Supreme Court cleared the way for the Trump administration to remove legal protections from hundreds of thousands of Haitians and Syrians in the U.S. The justices ruled 6-3 that courts have no power to second-guess the administration's decision to end those protections.
So TPS, or temporary protected status, was created by Congress in 1990. It allows the Secretary of Homeland Security, in consultation with the State Department, to grant temporary legal status to foreign nationals who are already physically inside the United States if their home country is hit by an armed conflict, an environmental disaster, or other extraordinary conditions. In other words, it's meant to be an emergency pause button on deportations, the key word being temporary.
Tonight, the White House is celebrating not one but two major Supreme Court decisions that could allow the administration to deport hundreds of thousands of immigrants and also turn away scores more at the southern border.
The ruling has sent more than 350,000 immigrants from Haiti and Syria into something of a state of panic.
Did you catch the linguistic sleight of hand that the media is playing there? They keep aggressively repeating the term immigrants.
It clears the way for the Trump administration to remove legal protections for hundreds of thousands of Syrian and Haitian immigrants. Again, these are immigrants who came to this country legally.
Wrong. Under U.S. law, an immigrant is someone granted legal permanent residence. TPS is explicitly a non-immigrant status. It does not provide a path to a green card or citizenship. It's essentially a long-term hall pass for foreign nationals who are supposed to go back home, but couldn't because of an emergency. But, calling them temporary foreign nationals doesn't fit the narrative quite as neatly.
The ruling ends what's called temporary protected status for roughly 350,000 Haitians, many of whom have lived and worked here legally for years after fleeing violence or natural disasters like the 2010 Haiti earthquake. Most will now have to leave the U.S. or face deportation.
Exactly. Many of these Haitians have lived here in the United States for as many as 15, 16 years. And temporary protective status is only designed to last 18 months. And since the 2010 Haiti earthquake, that status has been renewed and redesignated several times. But in 2017, the Trump administration attempted to terminate TPS for Haiti, but were blocked by several lawsuits.
They have been trying to revoke this for multiple countries on many times because they believe that this is not temporary.
The Trump administration believes that it's not temporary because the word temporary is literally in the statute. But instead, the government treated it like it was a permanent backdoor visa program. And when President Biden took office, he reversed Trump's termination efforts and issued 3 separate extensions and redesignations. So for clarity, in 2020, there were as many as 60,000 Haitians under TPS. By the end of 2024, there were 350,000. That's an increase of nearly 300,000 in just 4 years. Thanks, Obama.
I want to remind you that these are not people who came here illegally. These are people who are here under a protected immigration status because it is unsafe for them to live in their home countries.
It clears the way for the Trump administration to remove legal protections for hundreds of thousands of Syrian and Haitian immigrants. Again, these are immigrants who came to this country legally.
That's not quite true. The media is deliberately conflating two completely different things: having legal status right now and coming to the country legally. Temporary protected status protects you from deportation regardless of how you entered the United States. It applies to tourists who overstayed a visa, and it applies to people who snuck across the Rio Grande. As long as you are physically standing in the country, and have been here long enough, TPS applies. For example, remember the tens of thousands of Haitians who crossed the border illegally and had accumulated in Del Rio? Well, a large portion of them were released into the interior of the United States and would later receive TPS designations from Joe Biden. So please, MS Now, tell me again how they did it the right way.
People on TPS are the part of the fabric of community. They have jobs. They function. You know, there's nothing illegal or undocumented about them, even remotely. But this is where this anti-immigrant movement has gone.
The Republican Party has been shouting for decades, come in the right way, come in legally. TPS recipients have done explicitly that, and now hundreds of thousands of them are being targeted.
Saying they came here legally because they got a temporary reprieve years after illegally crossing the border is like saying that you bought a TV because the store decided not to press charges after you shoplifted it. So the plaintiffs in the case argued that the Haiti termination was motivated by racial animus against Black Haitians, which would be a violation of the Fifth Amendment. All because Trump reportedly said a bad word when describing the country.
Justice Kagan also says what the justices and Trump's own lawyers won't say, that for Donald Trump, it's entirely racial. He doesn't want people from, quote, shithole countries, which is how he describes Haiti.
This is from Justice Kagan about Trump's derogatory comments about Haitians. The statements fairly shout in their racial undertones and overtones alike that race entered into the president's resolve to remove Haitians from this country.
All of the countries that have TPS are made up of people that this president has said again and again are not people that he likes. They're countries that he's called whole countries, right? This is a president who is basically made his whims and wishes known, and the Department of Homeland Security acted on them on a dime, as you suspected.
But in the court opinion, Justice Samuel Alito wrote, none of the cited statements by President Trump was overtly racial, and in substance, all expressed policy views that could rest on race-neutral justifications. Meaning, when a president complains about the conditions of a foreign country, it's not racist. But the media doesn't care about dry legal reasoning. To them, reading the actual statute and applying it objectively is basically a hate crime.
I think we should read this majority opinion as effectively legalizing the president's gutter racism.
And it's a project of erasure. It's a project of trying to reestablish white supremacy.
They're getting exactly what they want, the whitening of America through the judicial process. That's how I see it. Look.
And this is just another case of the court giving the president a free pass for racism.
So on one hand, Trump calls Haiti a shithole, and Democrats are outraged, clutching their pearls and claiming his words are nothing more than racist hate speech. But on the other hand,
the State Department has a level 4 warning for Haiti, Syria, and Somalia. It says, do not travel for U.S. citizens. And if you do travel, prepare a will. So I think that tells you kind of everything you need to know about how they feel the situation is.
You need to prepare a will. That's just standard copy-pasted boilerplate language that the State Department puts on the safety checklist for American tourists traveling to any level 4 country. Countries that include Ukraine, Russia, and North Korea.
I just looked at the State Department's website, and they have a level 4 do not travel advisory for Haiti just from a few months ago, from April, and it says, quote, violent crime is rampant. The expansion of gang, organized crime, and terrorist activity has led to widespread violence. Crimes involving firearms are common. Crimes include robbery, carjacking, sexual assault, and kidnappings for ransom. That doesn't sound safe to me.
That doesn't sound safe to me. Pick a lane, Jake. You can't claim that Trump is a racist for accurately describing a country as a violent disaster, but then in the very next breath, read a State Department warning in an attempt to prove that it's a violent disaster.
Well, that do not travel is not for Haitians. That's do not travel for the United States, because they are kidnapping or trying to kidnap individuals from the United States because they feel like their family has the money to pay the ransom.
Exactly. It's a do not travel advisory for Americans, not an unlivable for the locals decoration.
We have do not travel in places in Mexico, or advisory warnings. In fact, if you go through our website in the State Department, you'll see there's advisories to a lot of places that are vacation destinations that we have advisories on because of the real risk to Americans. That doesn't mean it's a risk to the individuals that live there. So that advisory is to American citizens traveling to Haiti, not Haitians going back home.
Correct. A State Department warning that American tourists might get robbed or held at ransom does not legally mean that a sovereign nation has ceased to exist and its citizens can never return. We have serious travel advisories for vacation spots all over the world right now, but nobody pretends that those countries are completely unlivable. But Jake Tapper knows that his audience won't think past the scary warning label, so he just reads it on air and hopes that you think that it proves his point. So now that the Supreme Court has finally given the green light for the administration to revoke TPS, there's nothing that the media can do about it. Well, except go on TV and demonize the Trump administration for ending a program that was legally designed to be ended in the first place.
All of those individuals are potentially now eligible to be arrested, detained, and deported, even though they may have lived in this country for more than 15 years.
Communities that are going to be harmed by this, businesses that are going to be harmed by this.
TPS was granted to Haitians after the devastating earthquake that took place there 15 years ago. But what does a decision like this say to our friends and allies around the world who need help after a disaster?
It says that we're done being chumps and we're not going to be taken advantage of anymore. It also says that the word temporary actually means temporary.
This could impact 1.3 million TPS holders. That population has been in the United States since the early 1990s, right? Over 3 decades of lives in the United States.
Listen to the absolute entitlement in that argument. They're actually claiming that because the United States was overwhelmingly generous and extended a temporary emergency status for 3 decades, that we're now legally and morally obligated to let them stay forever.
TPS holders have built lives in this country. We are nurses, caring for patients, workers, supporting our economy, parents, raising American children. We are home, and we belong here.
No, your home is in Cameroon. The entitlement here is off the charts.
This is bad for America. That is what's going to happen. We're going to see the economic consequences.
And it is disastrous. It's going to hurt us. It's going to hurt our economy. It's going to make us weaker and poorer. What this is going to do, it's going to be disastrous to people. It's going to be disastrous and needlessly harmful to Americans.
So according to Karine Jean-Pierre, if these TPS holders are sent back home, the majority of which have only been here a few years, that somehow it's going to destroy the American economy.
This is not something that they are causing harm to the country. This is actually something that's going to have the reverse. It's going to hurt us as a country.
We are a nation of 330 million people with a $28 trillion GDP. But Karine Jean-Pierre wants you to believe that if we ask 350,000 temporary foreign nationals to finally pack their bags, that the entire system is going to collapse.
It's a huge blow to the economy as well, because TPS holders, every year, they generate $6 billion in revenue to the United States. Why? Because they have work permits to be here, work legally, they're employed.
These are jobs that are being filled by Haitians who are filling jobs that would not be filled any other way.
Yeah.
Well, gee, I guess it's lucky that Haiti had that earthquake 16 years ago, or else the American hospitality and healthcare industries would have just ceased to exist. The Lord works in mysterious ways.
Even though they have been here, many of them for many years, they can't say here they're tax-paying people, they are law-abiding people, they are people who actually do jobs and create jobs. They're actually people who are doing jobs that some Americans don't want to do.
No,
like
they want the jobs. They just don't want to do it for that wage.
Cleaning toilets,
they don't want to do it for that wage.
Toilets in the hotel.
And big business.
Americans don't want to clean toilets. Notice the absolute contempt that the media class has for the American working class. Americans will absolutely clean toilets. They'll wash dishes. They'll do back-breaking labor if you pay them a living wage. But Keith Boykin here is literally arguing in favor of corporate wage suppression and calling it humanitarianism.
Look, I think, Haitian workers in particular are overrepresented in the home healthcare industry. And there are so many people in every single district across the country that has a Haitian nurse, a Haitian healthcare worker that is caring for their elderly or their children or any number of people in their families. And people start seeing their home healthcare workers taken away and deported. There will be economic pain, there will be personal pain, and it is bad for our country, not to mention cruel and inhumane.
Translation? If you enforce federal law, your grandma loses access to her nurses. Don't you love your grandma? Well, then hand over the endless visa extensions and back away slowly.
It's Haitians who many times are taking care of your mom or your dad who has Alzheimer's, taking care of family members who might be in a nursing home. And to say we're going to pull all of those out, it's just not in our own self-interest.
It is truly remarkable to see an establishment Republican like Mike DeWine use the exact same progressive talking points as Pramila Jayapal.
I invite you to go to a nursing home. I invite you to go to anywhere where they have hospice care. I invite you to a rehab facility. You know who's going to be working there? A whole lot of Haitians caring for our most beloved family members.
Stephanie Ruhle knows that the legal argument for keeping TPS alive is completely dead, so she pivots to emotional blackmail. Unless all the Haitians stay, your beloved family members will be at risk.
The retirement home that my mom's in has a lot of Haitian Americans working there.
So what do Haitian Americans have to do with foreign nationals? Couldn't tell you. But we have to let all the TPS holders stay because Jake Tapper's mom or something.
If you look at the state, 1/5 of our doctors come from some other country. 12% of our STEM workers come from some other country.
Again, what does that have to do with TPS? Oh, right. Absolutely nothing. Now, one of the lead plaintiffs in the TPS lawsuit against the government was Fritz Emmanuel Leslie Myatt, a 32-year-old Haitian who has lived in the U.S. under temporary protected status since 2011. Justice Elena Kagan wrote about him in her dissent.
Fritz Emmanuel Leslie Myatt is a Haitian national who's held TPS for 15 years. He lives in California, where he works in a laboratory researching Alzheimer's. It's a job he can hold only because of his TPS work authorization.
But actually, if you read Mr. Myatt's bio from the original lawsuit, he's not some lead scientist or medical doctor heading up an R&D department. Instead, we find that he's a graduate student. He is completing his 4th year of graduate science studies and is on track to obtain a PhD in neuroscience at Loma Linda University. Translation, the job he holds is doing lab research for his degree. You know, like literally every other science grad student in the country. And FYI, the United States has an entire legal immigration framework specifically designed for foreign nationals attending universities and conducting graduate research. It's called the F1 student visa. And the claim that he is only in this position because of his TPS work authorization is a lie. There are over 1 million international students currently using standard student visas to study and do lab research in the US right now. Myatt didn't need an emergency earthquake relief card to go to grad school in California. He just used it as a loophole because it's easier than going through the actual legal immigration system.
So then Stephen Miller or Donald Trump get the statistic they want, and they say, we've deported X number of people. If those X number of people include this man who's doing Alzheimer's research that could save our lives, who's the voter saying, right on, I wanted us to hit that number?
So according to Stephanie Ruhle, if we enforce federal law, we are literally deporting the cure for Alzheimer's. Got it.
Myatt suffers from type 1 diabetes, which is easily treated in the United States. But in Haiti, The same disease can be a death sentence, given that country's collapsed healthcare infrastructure.
So it's a death sentence to send them back to Haiti because their healthcare infrastructure has collapsed. But at the same time, we can't deport tens of thousands of TPS holders because they're essential healthcare workers. Makes sense to me. What's your problem? Anyway, that's it for now. Head on over to my super cool merch store at don'twalkrun.shop. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel and hope to see you next time, if there is next time.